Thank you for coming here. Really appreciate that you came to this talk. I know this is a little bit different, perhaps from some other talks. So typically people come and talk about their own research, but today I'm here to share with you a new direction that I'm very excited about. It's something that I've been trying together with my students, undergraduates, and master students for 3 years. And I think by now we've concluded successful proof of concept. So this is not hypothetical. This is not futuristic in 10, 20 years from now. This is a thing that I've been doing with my students as early as second year undergraduate to get publications of higher standards of open science in some of our reputable journals in psychology. So yesterday I visited the business school, and over there I gave an overview of a lot of the issues that we're facing in science. That was a very broad introduction. I usually give a whole semester talking to students about what's happening in science. I was assuming that in psychology we're a little bit better informed because our journals expect a higher standard of sharing of illustrations. We have a new editor in psychological science. We have two new editors in JPSC who are demanding higher standards. We have this instead of impact factor, we have the top factors where they're going up each level with higher levels of transparency. So things in psychology, especially social psychology, are happening very fast. Very big changes. I think people are a little bit confused, but they know that something important is happening. Business is a little bit behind management. The reason why I know a little bit about what's happening in business is because I did my PhD in the management department at HUST, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Then I did a few postdocs in the US and in the Netherlands. And then I did University in Hong Kong. University of Hong Kong invited me back, and then I joined as faculty. So I know that there are some gaps between psychology and business, but because I understand that some people want to know, maybe students, some of the faculty want to know a little bit more about the challenges, so I very quickly took a few slides from the business presentation to also share with you. But I will try very fast to move from the issues and the challenges to move to some of the solutions and the things that I've been doing with my students. So as an open science scholar, everything that I do, including my teaching, including my talks, is downloadable. So you can go and you can visit anytime. There are lots of hidden slides. So if you want more information, you can look at the hidden slides. You can click on the links and just see more information about everything. Yeah. In addition, all of my stuff, including my teaching, hopefully also this talk, I post on YouTube. So if anybody wants to come back, if I talk too fast, maybe we went over this too briefly, you can go back and look at everything that I've done, all the talks that I give. So I go around the world a lot to give talks about open science and promote community solutions and diamond open access. In addition, all of my courses, including this semester, so I teach judgment and decision making and advanced social psychology. So you don't need to guess who I am. You can just go and see everything that I do. Everything's transparent. And I think that's one of the big important changes in this community of open science, where we share everything, both our research, our talks, and our teaching, so everybody can build on this and learn and grow. So I don't think I'm going to tell the very obvious that we need credible science. We just came out of a pandemic. Nobody remembers this anymore, but I vividly remember the challenges of at least 7 quarantines in Hong Kong, staying in a hotel together with myself in a room, thinking, is what I'm doing credible? Is what I'm doing making an impact? Am I able to change what's happening in the world? What is the role of psychologists in something like a pandemic? And I feel like we failed our stakeholders because they came to us and they said, okay, now it's your time to help us do policy, do changes, get people to wear masks, social distance, but we didn't have enough solution. So for all of these things, pandemics and climate change, we need credible, optimized science, not something that takes 4 years to publish, but something that can very easily come out and disseminate, but that we also know is credible, so that we don't get fake vaccines or fake treatments for something like COVID. So the question is how to do these kinds of things. And it used to be just me going around the world and saying, you need open science, you need to open up, you need to do things. But gladly, 2 years ago, UNESCO decided to declare. They came together and they had a declaration for the need for open science. So now it's not just me saying you need this. Now you have a whole world telling you that let's please try and promote. If you want to learn more about what they're doing, then they have a lot of resources for that. And we now work with organizations like UNESCO. It's not just UNESCO, but we didn't hear about this in Hong Kong and Macau. But actually, 2023, NASA declared this as the year of the open science. So in the US and in Europe, everybody's like open science, open science. And I come back to Hong Kong and people, what is open science? What are you talking about? So I feel like we need to catch up with our friends over there in Europe and in the US in the recognition that something very meaningful is happening. And it's not just NASA and UNESCO that are doing this, but also when the G7 come together and they discuss what's happening in the world, so many urgent things are happening. But then, even as they're so busy, the leaders of the world come together and say, we support the development of advanced technology, research infrastructure for what? For promoting open science, by doing fair principle. So even the G7 come together and prioritize this. It's no longer a few people in open science going around. This is a big priority, and I feel that University of Hong Kong, University of Macau, we should at the very least talk to the faculty and the students about promoting this. We should understand what is going on and why this is happening. Why is the G7, NASA, UNESCO talking about these things? So current challenges, and then I'll talk a little bit about the solution. One of the things that is very important, and I feel this every day at the University of Hong Kong, is this struggle between the kind of science that I want to do. So I want to do the best credible science. I want to make sure that everything is well aligned. So we have both novelty and impact and things that matter for society, but we also take the time to ensure that everything is solid, that everything is credible. So we talk about doing replication, we talk about error detection, we talk about adversarial collaboration, we talk about all the principles that I came to do a PhD, that we came to science in order to contribute. But then when we ask the University of Hong Kong, University of Macau, what is it that is the most important to you? And many times the only thing that we get is number of publications and impact factors. And what are those? How to get published in the top 10 journals. This is mostly about novelty, groundbreaking, counterintuitive, only a list of 5, maybe 10 journals that we should aim for. These are very, very prestigious, so it's on reputation, but we don't even know who gave them this reputation. This impact factor that most of us don't really understand, about 2 years, very skewed distribution, but emphasizes all these things that will get social media attention, newspaper, all these things that are groundbreaking. So if you have no findings, reject. P-value higher than 0.05, reject. Not novel enough, reject. So on this one side, we've got the incentives with all these chasing metrics. And then on the other side, it's us. We need to decide what to do. We want to do good science, but we want to get hired. We want to get promoted. We want to get funding for our research. So it's almost an impossible thing. At the business school, there's a very famous paper. Perhaps you also know this in psychology, but in 1975, Stephen Kerr came out with a paper saying, on the folly of rewarding A while hoping for B. What was he talking about? He was talking about teaching and research. So we get hired to universities because of research. But actually, what universities actually do with students is mostly teaching. So they reward research, but they hope for teaching, and then comes into this conflict where we have a lot of researchers that actually don't know how to teach well. Students come to the classroom and say, maybe he's a great researcher, but he definitely does not know how to teach. So he was talking about the folly of rewarding research while hoping for teaching. But I'm here to tell you, actually, this is much bigger than this. Because we reward prestige and reputation, but we hope for credibility and we hope for accuracy. So all this is misaligned. We think that this is going to happen, but does it really happen? So there's all these kinds of paradoxes. So on one side, we've been told which part of the research you believe should be beyond your control. So we are scientists and we document the truth, we document reality. We don't mess around with the reality in order to get promoted or to get funding. So what should we touch? The results. We should document the results and the reality just as they are. But how to get published, how to get promoted, how to get funded, what is the most important thing for your career? The results. So on one side, you shouldn't touch the results. The other side, the results is what matters. So if you don't have any control over it, but you're evaluated by the results, then what happens? So don't touch the results and make sure that your results are amazing. This is a big problem in science, and all of us feel this every day as researchers. And then we have this, what's best for scientists? So we have to produce a lot of these great results. But what's best for science? It's not these great results. Solid science, when you have vaccinations, you need to know what works and what doesn't work. So we know how to tell people whether they should vaccinate or not. We have a treatment, we need to know the good things and the bad things. And all of this should be disseminated. If we have 100 trials of vaccination for COVID-19, and only 2 of them work, we submit 100 to the journals, and the journals say, oh, these 98, no results, reject. We just want the counterintuitive, the amazing, the solution. But then, as a society and as stakeholders, we want to see all the 100 to know that only 2 out of the 100 work. So we have this big pressure between these two things, what's best for the scientists and what's best for science. I'll give you just one example. This is a case study just to understand what was happening. But we have a lot of these problems in psychology. For example, here, scientists say eating chocolates can help you lose weight. This is amazing because this is the news that we want to have. Finally, all I need to do instead of waking up early and going to the gym, the only thing I need to do in order to lose weight is eat more chocolates. And it's amazing because it became viral, so of course having the post, everybody said, after World Young Coco, eating chocolate can help you lose weight. People were very excited about this. But then the person who did this, and this is real research, the person who did this wrote a blog post a little bit later. His name is John, and he's a science communicator. And he wrote, I fooled millions into thinking chocolate helps weight loss. Here's how. And he's revealing this in 2015. And I remember I just finished my PhD. And I remember looking at this and thinking, oh my gosh, people are doing this on a mass scale. And actually, science reporters, the media, does not know to identify whether something is junk or not. So here's how he did this. And it's very nice looking that he did this on purpose in order to demonstrate something. And he's sharing, here's a little science secret, dirty little science secret. If you measure a large number of things about a small number of people, you are almost guaranteed to get statistically significant results. So what did he do? He didn't just measure weight. He measured a lot of things. 8 different measurements. Weight, cholesterol, sodium, blood protein, sleep quality. Well, he measured all of this. But what did he report? Only the weight. But just by the randomness of the universe, just by statistical truths, 1 out of the 18 is likely to come out as significant. This is random noise. What else did he do? He only ran this on 15 people. The smaller the samples, the larger the noise, the more likely is it that you'll find something that actually is not solid. Not only is this what happened as a baseline, but in addition, it wasn't enough. He looked at the data and he said, oh, it's not exactly what I wanted. Maybe I'll just drop one of the subject because he looked sick that day. So I'm just going to take care of one of them. So this study design is a recipe for false positives. Now, you might think that this doesn't happen, but actually I've seen this happen many, many times. Also during my PhD, I've seen that because we want to get published, this is how we do. We understand intuitively, and sometimes even subconsciously, this is what we do with the data. Yesterday in the business school, I demonstrated how to p-hack. I'm not going to do this now because we don't have enough time, but I demonstrate this to my students. So you can go on YouTube and see how to p-hack, how to do these kinds of things. And there's lots of things that you can do in order to get your p-value below 0.05. So you can go and check any one of these shiny apps. It's an amazing demonstration that basically you can get p-value lower than 0.05, almost everything that you want, including chocolate leads to weight loss. How do we know that people are doing these things? There are many ways to know that people are actually doing it. And the one thing that we can do as a baseline is to just ask them, are you doing these things? And when we start to ask people, are you doing these things that we now call questionable research practices or p-hacking, we have all these papers that are coming out, and then we map them out on the rates of how many people are self-disclosing that they're doing this. And you can see harking, hypothesizing after the results are known, the rates are 30% to 60%. How about excluding data depending, like the chocolate weight loss, excluding one participant and not even telling anybody? Some of them are up to 60%. All these things are just unbelievable. And when you take all of these together, then you realize that people are getting very close to 100% people doing something like this. Sometimes it could be that they're doing this on purpose. Sometimes they just don't understand that what they're doing has consequences. Sometimes some of this is subconscious. Sometimes it's just poorly trained RAs or poorly trained students. Selective reporting of what worked, 50%. The thing that is really very disturbing is also that we have some questions about fraud. The people are reporting falsifying. We've got rates that are about 5 and 10%. Falsifying data. And this is self-admission. People are admitting to this kind of thing. You can't imagine like what are the real rates. So this is very alarming. This is an aggregation and meta-analysis of all these things put together. Okay, so this is self-admission. And how do we really know? Do we have any evidence that people are doing this? So now we have a whole field that I try to contribute to. It's called meta-science. So in order to know whether science works, we can apply scientific principles, quantitatively evaluate whether science is working appropriately. So for example, one of the earliest things that they did, back then in 2012, I think, is that they took 258,000, extracted all of the statistics from all of the articles in psychology, plotted everything. And actually, the beginning, the left side looks okay, because the real distribution of p-values should be that the highest is below 0.01. A little bit lower, 0.02, a little bit lower, 0.03, a little bit lower, 0.04. And look what happens at 0.05. 0.05 just goes up, explodes. Why is this happening? Because people push the p-value to just below 0.05. So this is scientific evidence, something that should not happen. That people understand that 0.05 is the criteria to get published in these top journals. And people are pushing, p-hacking, questionable research practices to get things just below 0.05. Very disturbing. Another tool that I recommend that you use, demonstrated this yesterday in the business school, that we have about to talk about this, is that you can now do a whole evaluation of the literature to look at what's credible. So you can automatically extract, let's say that, for example, you want to know whether social priming works. You want to build your thesis, 4 years of PhD, you want to build on social priming. Does it work or doesn't it work? So you go on tools like this, p-checker. You can automatically extract all the p-values from all the social priming articles. And then it will give you a distribution of the p-values, and then you will see whether one of them looks out of place. And I can already tell you, social priming does not hold Every year, I see undergraduates and master's, PhD students investing a lot of time in social planning. But if you just put the literature of social planning in tools like this, very fast you realize publication bias, questionable research practices. It's a recipe for problem. Now, you might have heard of this because it's a big person in our field. There's a whole story about Francesca Gino and what's happened in judgment and decision making in the business school. Francesca Gino has done a bunch of work, and a group of open science people called Data Colada have identified that at least in 4 of her papers, there's fraud. She sued them, she sued Harvard fired her, a whole story. We're not going to go into the story, I can talk about this for 3 hours. But what's interesting is what happened with her co-authors. So all of her co-authors, she's very prolific. 150 co-authors decided to go back and look at all the data that was ever done by Francesca Gino to try and see whether there's fraud. So you can see of all the papers that were published by publications, and then just to start to see whether we have data, was Francesca Gino involved, yes or no. So already a very good initiative. I wish we would do more of this because we should have open data in code. But if we don't, we can go back and just ask everybody to share what it is that they have. But then 2 weeks ago, something unbelievable happened. So Francesca Gino worked with some of the best people in our field, including Juliana Schroeder. She's somebody whose work I know, I follow, I cite. She came out on Twitter, not called X, and she wrote this amazing thread. She retracted one of her papers with Francesca Gino. Why did she retract this? Maybe there was fraud by Francesca Gino? No, not related to Francesca Gino. This is what she wrote. I want to correct the record on 2 immediate false narratives. First, there is no evidence that Gino was involved. So this is not about Gino. So what is this about? Why was this retracted? So Juliana Schroeder. Second, there are issues in every study of her paper with Gino. I was a student investigator running studies 3 and 4. The key results were statistically significant. Due to research practices, I now identify this happy. She's saying, I, as a student 10 years ago, when I worked on this paper, I p-hacked. Finally, what is she saying? I am ashamed of helping publish this paper and how long it took me to identify its issues. I am not the same scientist I was 10 years ago. I can tell you, top school, HUSD Business School, where I did my PhD, I saw some of these practices happening. Some of us didn't know that this is something that you're not supposed to do. And some of the professors I feel did. So, are we going to clean this up? Is something that we published that it shouldn't be there? Are we going to retract this? This is unbelievable because this is even in the top schools like Berkeley or Harvard. This is getting to our top professors and the people who publish 150 papers or 150 collaborators. So very, very sad. In addition, we're gaming the system. How are we gaming the system? Because we have the system where impact factor is the most important, what do? We submit to the highest impact factor, psychological science, JPSC, and all of that. Reject, okay, move to the second one. Reject, okay, move to the third one. And then it could take years to finally get the paper published, or we give up, especially students, like, okay, PhD finished, couldn't get the paper, going to the follower. Such a shame. Such a waste of evaluation efforts. All the peer reviewers, all the people who worked on this. Such a shame. Why don't we move the decision makers from one journal to another? Why is there this disconnect? Why do we restart everything? Why is there no combination? Why do we care so much about the impact factor? In addition, if you think about this, when I came to do my PhD, I just couldn't believe that this is how science is working. How does science work? On one side, we have the stakeholders, the people who pay our salary, all the people out there who pay their taxes. They pay my salary, they pay my funding, they pay everything. And then they say, you pay my salary, but you can't get access to the work. So after we finish the research, we submit this to the journal. The journal asks us to give them their IP, and then they put this behind a paywall. Who can access this? Only somebody who has a university subscription. So can the public access things? Let's say something important like vaccination treatments. Can they read the research that they funded? They cannot do. In addition, also cannot believe that this is how we do peer review. We don't look at the data and the code. So some people approach me and they said, can you please review my research project? I'm very happy to be a peer reviewer for a journal. This is one of the things that we do as a community. And then I asked, great, can you please give me the data and the code? People say no. Many times when I request, and I always request the data and the code if they want me to be a peer reviewer, they say, thank you for your service, we'll find somebody else. Because I'm considered to be extreme in asking something that seems very basic to see the data and the code that things were based on. In addition, it's just unbelievable. It's a corrupted system of how much we pay the 6 for-profit publishers. At University of Hong Kong, last year, in the week of open access with the librarians, I got the first glimpse of how much University of Hong Kong is paying this for-profit publisher, Elsevier, Springer Nature, Wavy. I urge you to go and talk to the University of Macau librarians to figure things out. So my estimation, based on what I saw, is that Hong Kong, altogether, the 8 to 10 universities that need subscriptions and pay APCs, spend about 2 billion Hong Kong dollars a year. 2 billion. You know what we can do with 2 billion a year? People didn't give this to these companies, and they don't add any value. And their profit margins are insane, much higher than Walmart, Toyota, Exxon, Apple, and Google. It's unbelievable how much money they make for nothing, because we just give them all our research for free, for no reason. So they're parasites, and we need to get rid of them. There's no reason for them to exist. The only reason why they exist is because in the 19th century paper cost money, but now we do everything online and we just work on prestige. If we don't promote prestige, then we can change the system. But because everything is impact factors and reputation and prestige, then these for-profit publishers laugh at us. They make these insane profit margins based on our profit, our prestige system. So we really need to get rid of this parasite. I don't even know why it exists. Every time I see some of my colleagues pay $10,000 for nature communication, nature human behavior, like, oh my gosh, 10,000 US dollars. The things we can do with this kind of research, it's just inexcusable. I think this is morally wrong. So we need to really think about these things very carefully. So here's the person that I want you to know and meet. He has changed my perspective about many things in regarding science. His name is Chris Chambers. And in 2015, he came out with this book, The 7 Deadly Sins of Psychology. And he said, we have many sins. It's an unbelievable book. I recommend this to my students. They need to reach out to this. But he talks about we have problems with outcome bias, confirmation bias, publication bias, Hansen bias. So when we submit things to the peer review, because the outcome is already there, if they don't like the outcome, let's say p-value is higher than 0.05, vaccine didn't work, so I reject. Or if they don't like the results, it's from another camp. They don't believe in that theory, reject. So when we look at the outcome, then we have outcome bias. When we have confirmation bias, we only approve the things that confirm our beliefs and we reject everything else. Hansen bias, in hindsight, everything seems unsurprising. So at the beginning, we thought this is a psychology problem, but now we know this is not a psychology problem, this is a science problem. And there's lots of indications for that. So this is from Chris Chambers and his slide. I want to tell you that in each and every step of the life cycle for research, we now know that there are issues because we have meta-science results, analysis, showing us that there is indication for all sorts of problems. At the beginning, there's not enough replication. We just don't do replication. Somebody did something in the 1970s with 20 students in Princeton, and since then we do books and TED Talks and we tell this to practitioners and our students. It's not what we don't know. Was it replicated, not replicated? Then low statistical power. We used to have, up until 2012, psychological science, JPSD samples of 20 in each condition. So we didn't even understand what power was. This is not something that was taught to me when I was doing my PhD. In addition, we have these questionable research practices between 50% and 100% of people doing these things. Then hierarchy. And finally, we don't share any of the data, and everything is significant. Everything in our literature is p-value lower than 0.05. So unbelievable that we have all these things. Now, finally, I want to tell you that this is not a psychology problem, but I'm very proud of us in psychology being among the first to identify these issues. This just came out in 2 years ago. In biology, it took them 10 years to do this replication project. And they started with 193 experiments in cancer biology. So they wanted to know that cancer biology is solid. So if our research in psychology doesn't work, not a big deal. Cancer biology, oh my God, if this stuff doesn't replicate, then we're in serious trouble. So they started with 193. However, they can only finish 50 out of 193. Why? Because the article does not have enough information. The method section is very, very small. When we reach out to the authors and we say, okay, can we please get their procedures, can we please tell us? And over there, it's more complicated than psychology because you need to know what to do in the lab, at what time, what procedure to do. Then suddenly you get all these kinds of very strange responses from researchers. A little bit like I hear from my students sometimes. Laptop broke down, I moved to university, the dog ate my homework. Just amazing that we cannot even reproduce to start the experiment. From 193, we only go to 250. Out of those, how many do they replicate? How many are solid? So you have a summary, succeeded on all 3 criteria. Of the papers, 23, how many? 2. Of the experiments, how many? 50, 2 succeeded. So you can see the rates, 11, 6. This is replication with astrobiology. We can't get to replicate. First, we can't reproduce. Then we can't replicate these things. But this is across all the sciences because we don't open our data, but we don't document our procedures. We don't invite others to do independent replications all the time. So this is just mind-blowing. It brought everybody. At the beginning, they were saying psychology, oh, you can't replicate. It's your problem. You're soft science. And we saw the hard sciences, it shows that you're doing better. And then we realized, actually, if anything, psychology is doing better than these other exact sciences, hard sciences. So this is just a very brief introduction. It took me about half of the time, but hopefully you gave you some understanding of what's happening. And many times when I go around the world, even with UNESCO and NASA and all of these people saying that we need all these sciences, some people still push back. and tell me you're wrong. Science is working, there's electricity, the planes are flying, there's no problem, science is working as expected. So my message to anybody who wants to have a discussion is, let's have a discussion. At least we should open this up and have a discussion. But at the very least, I feel like we should understand that something very important is happening. It's time for us to do some self-reflection, reassessment, and improvement. And even if you don't believe that there's a problem in science right now, I feel like you should take this as an opportunity. So I really like this cartoon. So here in this cartoon, it talks about climate change. So in climate change, when we talk about addressing climate change, we talk about healthy children, clean water and air, renewables, livable cities, green jobs. And then somebody comes up and says, what if it's all big hopes and we create a better world for nothing? Let's just create a better world. I feel the same way about open science. We talk about things that just are good science. So open access is one of them. Increase transparency to prevent questionable research practices. And somebody says, but what if it's all big hopes to create a better science for nothing? Which is like, let's just create a better science. So hopefully, even if you disagree with me, we can start a debate and then we can at least agree that we should improve our scientific process. So let's say that you're convinced that we should improve, and then what to do about it. So to fix this kind of mindset, I think Chris Chambers back then in 2012 thought, all the system works on prestige and high impact factors. Nobody's going to change them. Nothing is going to work. How to change the incentive system? What is it that we can do in order to build on the current system, but slowly change it into something that is more durable, more credible? So he was looking for a solution that would not depend on the result, but only depend on the question that you ask and the quality of your research. And then he was following Richard Feynman, that the first principle is that you must not fool yourself. You're the easiest person to fool. So how to tackle this? How to prevent us from fooling ourselves? How to show others that we've not fooled ourselves? So I'm here to tell you that registered reports, to me, are the future of science, and they're built on something called a pre-registration. And hopefully we learn this and educate our students to do it in our courses. So in the year 2013, another neuroscientist, like Mani Pong, the doctor of neuroscience at the University of Hong Kong, and they like to publish in places like Cortex. Replication Chambers was invited to become an editor in Cortex. Replication Chambers said, I will not be an editor if Cortex keeps doing the same kind of thing as before. So the chief editor said, okay, what do you suggest? Replication Chambers was the first to introduce register reports. This is revolutionary in so many different ways, but it's based on very simple principles. So came out in 2013, registered report, a new publication publishing initiative in Cortex. And the central aspect of this is that the evaluation of a paper needs to happen before the data was collected. So we eliminate the outcome bias, the hindsight bias, the publication bias. So the only criteria for whether something should be published or not is the rigor and the quality, whether the science is good or not good. So the peer review should happen before the data collection. So you write a pre-registration plan, and then you submit that to the journal, and then you get peer reviewers to tell you whether the plan is good enough or not. If it's not good enough, then you don't have to reject it, because you haven't collected the data, and the authors can still change things. So this moves it from me on my own, me to decide whether I'm the best scientist in the world, and I know exactly how to do everything, to I do the best that I can. I submit this, experts come in, they give me feedback, and then I improve. So working, instead of the individual, working in the community. And then, in addition, once everybody agrees that the plan is solid, then the journal, in this case Cortex, gives you what is called an in-principle acceptance. In-principle acceptance is a guaranteed publication. It means that no matter what the outcome is, this is going to get published as long as you either follow your pre-registration or you document the deviations and you explain why you deviated. So it's more about transparency of the process. So the broken model nowadays is that all of the journals are doing the thing where you do everything on your own, and then you submit this after you wrote the reports. Everything is finished. So what is the peer reviewer role? Find mistakes and reject. Or look at whether they have the results. If not, reject. This is broken because of all these biases that we have: outcome bias, publication bias, hindsight bias, confirmation bias. These are big problems. This is broken. What does Chris Chambers say? Let's change it to a two-stage system. In the first stage, you develop the idea, you design the study, you do the best plan that you can come up with. Then you submit this to the journal, and the reviewers test you, and then they verify your plan. Is the hypothesis well-founded? Is the research question interesting and important for what it is that we're doing? Are the methods and proposed analysis feasible? And then they also ensure, have you done a power analysis? Are you sure that you have enough power in order to detect that bit that you're aiming for? So they also ensure that there's big enough samples in order to test this. appropriately. And then whether there's sufficient positive control to make sure that the research is solid. So this happens in peer review one. Once everybody agrees that this is the best plan, you get in-principle acceptance, and you can proceed with data collection. Only after in-principle acceptance, you collect the data, you analyze it, you write the report, and then you submit stage two. In stage two, no new comments. The only role for the peer reviewers in stage two is to make sure that the authors follow the approved protocol, or if they deviated, and you can deviate, you can explore, you can do whatever you want, as long as you don't say that this is confirmatory. You say this is exploratory, and you do not pre-register this. So some people say registry reports or pre-registration limits you. They really don't. The only thing that they require of you is transparency. Follow the protocol that was approved in stage one, and if you did anything extra or you deviated, then you need to be transparent about this and you need to identify this. So this is revolutionary in so many different ways. And I'll tell you a little bit why. So first, from this model where you have a lot of issues in each and every step of the way, suddenly you get to this thing that you don't have any publication bias, you don't have outcome bias, you don't have any of these problems that we talked about before. There's no issues with low power because you made sure in stage one that the research was actually powerless enough. We also incentivize a lot of things that were not incentivized before, like replication. Because what is important is that you have solid research. At the beginning, in 2013, it was only Cortex and two other journals that Chris Chambers was an editor on. But once we understood the importance of this registered report model, then many others started to go. And finally, I think a lot of big push, like for example, nature human behavior, so even the big players now do this kind of thing. JPST with the new editors now do that registered reports. So more and more, you can go and look at the list. This is the list with outdated. Now we have more than 350, getting close to 400 of these journals that do registered reports. So, for example, if you like Cortex, if Cortex gives you good prestige and good model, that's great. Instead of doing this the old model, just send your registered report to Cortex, and then do this as a registered report and follow the good model. If you want the list of journals, the most updated, then you can download my slides. This is the link over here. But then press on this in order to see the link of everything, all the journals that we know of that do registered reports. And we have a hard time to keep up because more and more journals are coming in, and not just in psychology. It's not just social psychology, you've got cognitive psychology, you've got neuroscience, you've got all types of psychology, but now it's beyond psychology. And you've got all the others, including cancer biology and beyond. So the other sciences are following the footsteps of psychology to adopt this. So now we understand that this is very, very important. Then you might ask, which journal should I submit to? Which one does registered reports the best? I have to say, because Chris Chambers was the one who initiated this, where Chris Chambers was an editor, they do the best. But how do we know? Because we ask people to report and give feedback. Give feedback on the stage one, give feedback on the stage two, give feedback on the speed. So if you want to know which one is the most solid and does this the best, then go and look at the link, and now we have hundreds of people who have tried this already, including our team. So I really believe in the science experiment, and I think it's really good that Chris Chambers came up with this, because I feel like the status quo research, all the Francisco Dino and the Juliana Schroeder and all these chocolate that used to wake up, status quo research, the way that it is right now with closed science and no pre-registration, should not inform policy. And we should be very, very careful and humble before we go to the TED Talks, before we go to the books. But slowly, the more you do pre-registration, the more you do open science, then you move from the red, you move into the green. And the highest one, I believe, is registered reports, where you eliminate all the biases, where everything is open and shared. And finally, when we have a meta-analysis of registered reports, that is what should inform policy. This is the stuff that is credible, that we know has the top standards in science. Now, some people say, okay, but this doesn't sound like something that I know how to do. I don't feel like I can compete with this. What is my incentive in the current incentive system? Why is it good for me as the author? I'm here to tell you, after I've tried this, that actually the incentives direct you towards registered reports. Why is that? I'll give you a few reasons. First of all, just for the sake of it, you just do good science. So this is great. Second of all, when you do stage one, you get constructive, positive feedback from reviewers. On your stage one, so you still make it better. You can correct mistakes. And I have to tell you, because I do a lot of research with students, and I also have weaknesses and flaws. Sometimes I make mistakes, and oh my God, the reviewers of registered reports help me find these mistakes. Sometimes I'm just so grateful. I want to give them authorship because they really help me fix something that would not have been fixable if I just could start to collect the data. So you get constructive, positive, extra feedback, especially important for students because they have this imposter syndrome where I really know how to do things. So submit this, get expert peer review, and then you can change it if something is wrong. higher acceptance rates. So Chris Chambers in Cortex says rejection rates typically in Cortex are about 90%, which is very similar to JPSD, very similar to psychological science. How about register reports? What is the rejection rate over there? 10% for stage 1, 0% for stage 2. Why? If there is a problem, then you just correct it. So this is already an amazing model. For us, I do a lot of verification. And typically when I submit my verifications, my completed verifications, not register reports, a traditional model. When we used to do this 4 or 5 years ago, our rejection rate was about 78%. Very disheartening, a lot of waste. Just move between journals until somebody finds, is willing to accept it. What is our rejection rate after we move to register report after 3 years? Our rejection rate is 0. I have not been rejected for the last 3 years after doing register reports. I cannot tell you what kind of a relief this is for me, what kind of a relief for the students. We feel like we're doing good science, it's acknowledged by the community. And then, if some students are saying, but I need to get ready for the job market, I need my CV to be perfect, and I'm here to tell you, this is terrific. Because stage 1 is a guaranteed publication, it is already aligned on your CV before you collected the data. So just do good stage 1 in principal acceptance, you can add this to your CV. Another problem is the students depend on advisors in order to get funding. We depend on the GRF, on all the funding agencies in Hong Kong and Macau in order to get funding. But this is high risk for students, impossible. They rely on their professor. But you have a stage 1 in principal acceptance. You go to the community. I do this a lot on Twitter, and I say, I don't have the resources, but I have a guaranteed publication from a journal. Who wants to join me? And then people who have lab, have participant pool, have resources, they can join in. And then I just say, they did data collection, they went over the drafts. This is good enough for contributorship. I give them co-authorship, and the co-authors, this becomes a community. So this also solves the resource problem. If you're a student and you don't know where to get funding, do this as a register report, and then find people because you have in-principal acceptance. In addition, GRS does not need to have any risk regarding whether you're going to publish this, not going to publish it. You can come with an IPA to say, I already have a publication, I just need to execute this. So a lot easier for all the GRS and the people to fund this. The zero risk is already a publication, it's already going to matter. So a lot of reasons why you want to do this for yourself. Now the question is, this is a new model. Is it really fixing things? Do we really know that this is helping? And because this is relatively new, it's only been running 10 years, I think 3 years, it's like where it really took off. So how do we know that this is really helping? So we have the beginning of meta-scientific evidence. People are comparing standard reports to register reports. So I'll give you just 2 examples. One example is that in the traditional reports, everything is positive. Everything is p-value lower than 0.05. So you can see, out of all of these, over 90% is p-value lower than 0.05. This is publication bias. It means that you get to reject all the things that didn't work. But this it's not manage to proceed, especially when you think about things like treatments to cancer biology, to vaccines. We need to know the good and the bad. So how do we know that this is working? Because when we do register reports, we see that this drops to something a lot more realistic, or less than 50%. We're not prophets. We don't know how everything is going to work out. Some of the things that we hypothesize work, some of them don't. So this is a lot more realistic. So meta-scientific evidence shows it's preliminary that registered reports are working as intended. In addition, we're doing randomized controlled trials. So actually, we're taking publications that are registered reports, and we're taking traditional reports. And then we have blinded reviews where we don't tell the reviewers whether this is a registered report or we tell them whether this is a traditional model. So we hide the fact that this is a registered report, and then we see how do they evaluate this on quality, on rigor. And you can already see these are big effects. The differences between registered reports in quality, methods rigor, quality of methods, analysis rigor, conclusions justified, overall quality of the paper. Registered reports are just consistently rated as higher quality than traditional ones. And it makes sense because this is a community effort. Everybody's contributing to the stage 1. The authors did their work, and peer reviewers give constructive feedback. So the overall quality increases. So there's more slides out there, but I'll stop at number 2. It just goes to show things are working. If you want to see all of the evidence, Chris Chambers came up with a paper that summarizes all of the habits from 2022 energy indicator about this registered report model. Is this working, not working as expected? And from this summary, you understand how big of a revolution this is. So I've seen this firsthand involved in all of this. And he also addresses a lot of misconceptions. So for example, a lot of people feel like they need hackers, exploratory research. If we're going to do everything registered reports, does it mean I can't explore? And it really doesn't. This is a misconception. People just don't understand that it's about transparency. It's about getting peer review where it matters on your pre-registration. So some people are saying, literature reports is just for one study. No, now we have solutions. We have programmatic studies with multiple studies. In addition, we also have things about is it suitable for early career researchers? Just like I explained, actually, early career researchers are the ones that benefit the most from this because it's easier for them to get funding. It's easier for them to find collaborations. It's easier for them to add lines on their CV to show. It's better than just having a preprint because you can show with a public endorsement that this is a guaranteed publication. So all of these misconceptions have answers. And if you want these answers, just go and read these papers review on this. My first registered report was in 2020. I had an MPhil student, and I told Chinyu, I want to try something new with you, but I don't have any experience with this. Are you willing to do your thesis as a registered report? And to my great surprise, Chinyu is now at the University of Vienna in Austria as a PhD student. To my great surprise, he was willing to go along with this. So we submitted this to a journal that only does registered reports. This is a new journal, so comprehensive results in social psychology. It does not accept any traditional model submissions, only registered reports. So we submitted it to that journal. And finally, within less than 1 year, Chinyu, during his MPhil, was able to get a report published. And if you want to see what that looks like, everything is open, everything is shared with the Open Science Framework. So I asked Chinyu, for your benefit, can you please summarize your journey as a student, as an MPhil? What is it that you felt during the journey? There's a lot of things, you can read this afterwards, but I'll summarize this for you. He says, I'm so happy with registered reports because it reduced a lot of my uncertainty. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't think I have enough expertise. I'm very, very scared of making mistakes. And finally, with registered reports, I have more certainty in the process. In addition, I gain more confidence and I catch more errors. They help us. Reviewers catch errors in stage one. Ease peace of mind. And I think this is the counterintuitive part because a lot of people expect the registered reports take longer, but actually it saved us a lot of time. No longer need to gain journal 1, journal 2, journal 3, 4 years of peer review. We got this done in less than 1 year. In addition, he wrote, reviewers contribute meaningful things to the paper, sometimes we want to give them credit. And then especially recommended for MPhil students, for research postgraduate, for early career researchers. So this is not just me. This is Chinyu who did this with me, the first one who did this with me. So this is already fantastic. I really like this, and it's good that Chinyu was willing to go along with this. But I was very curious whether we can improve on this because I wanted to do this not just with MPhil students. I also wanted to do this with undergraduates and masters, doing 6 to 8 months thesis. And I was really worried about the time. So around the 2020, 2021, or before the pandemic, 2019, I met Chris Chambers in Italy, and we had a workshop, open science workshop. And I told Chris Chambers, I really want to do this with all my undergraduates. What can we do about this? And Chris Chambers said, please be patient, we're working on this. And to my great surprise, 2021 comes out with Registered Reports 2.0, which is this thing. Peer community in registered reports. Peer community is an amazing initiative that is going to change all of science, not just registered reports. Lots of innovations there. I will not go into this. I will just say it's by the community, for the community, all funded by libraries or open science related universities that instead of paying the for-profit publishers, fund this. Costs nothing for you, costs nothing for the reader, and everything is open. Everything in open peer review is done on open preprints for the public. So first you publish everything as preprints, you get this out there as soon as possible, and then you got peer reviewers working on preprints to give constructive feedback. Now, lots of innovations here, groundbreaking work, but I'm going to emphasize 3 of those. The first one is what happened that helped me to do this with undergraduates and masters. They guarantee peer review within 2 weeks. It's unbelievable. The way that they do this is through a snapshot. So 6 weeks before you want the review, you need to submit 1 page that summarizes your research question, your hypothesis, and the basic methods. Very, very brief. You can work on something for 6 weeks. They recruit reviewers 6 weeks into the future. Everybody aims for the same date. You know that you need to submit a certain date, and reviewers have 1 week after that date. And then reviewers take 1 week, editor takes another week, and guaranteed peer review within 2 weeks. At the beginning, when Chris Chambers came out with this, I'm just like, cannot be. I've tried this with over 30 students. They give you peer review within 2 weeks. It's unbelievable. In addition, you don't have to submit a journal. So you might ask, but here in the University of Macau, we need to submit Cortex. We need the Nature Human Behavior. We need all these big prestigious journals. What is amazing is that once you get endorsement from the community, there are journals that say, we will automatically publish this with no additional peer review. So you do everything with the community, and then once it's endorsed by the community, you choose which journal you want to publish with. So this is an unbelievable model. This shifts all the power from the four publishers, for profit publishers, to the authors, to you. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And then also start identifying reviews. So if you're a PhD student and you're doing reviews, but nobody knows that it's you because it's anonymized, you get credit. You got a cyclable thing that you can add to your CV to say, I reviewed for the community. You know exactly who reviewed, what reviewed, you can see all the process and how the authors responded to this. So which journals are currently in there? So in management and business school, I can't promise them much, but in psychology, the list is increasing all the time. So just tell you a little bit. For example, advances in methods and practices in psychological science is, if you care about impact factors, like 15 or 16. It is about meta science, so you need to make sure that your research report is about that. Some of the journals, like Chris Chambers is an editor, so Royal Society of Open Science, and you can see Cortex. So if I am doing neuroscience, and I tell this to all my colleagues, neuroscientists, if I am a neuroscientist, I will submit everything to the community, and once it's endorsed, automatically publish in Cortex. It meets all the criteria of what is expected from us at the University of Hong Kong and the University of Macau. And then, in addition, more and more journals are coming in, so this is automatically accepted. The one that I use a lot is Collaborative Psychology. Now, talk a little bit about that. The current editor of Psychological Science, Celine Brazier, was previously in Collaborative Psychology, and she made sure that the journal joins this initiative. And increasingly, we're very hopeful that even Psychological Science will accept some of the registry forms. These are the friendly journals. What are these? These are interested journals. So every time we get a stage 1 in principle acceptance, they get a notification. And sometimes I get emails from these journals saying, we really like your stage 1 in principle acceptance. Once you get your stage 2 endorsement, we will publish this. I've never before been approached by an editor saying, please publish with us. So actually, before Collabora was here, Collabora was actually on this side, and Celine Brazier was the editor. So when I did the projects with my students, Celine Brazier would write me an email saying, please publish this with Collabora. And then I told Celine, I really want to publish this with Collabora, but I have a problem. Problem is, Collabora requires $1,000 APC. I cannot pay this APC. This is the student. And then what did Collabora do? Say, no problem. We want this paper, waive the APC. Suddenly, because you have power, you can ask all these for-profit publishers. Collabora is a non-profit, but it still requires APC. You can ask them to waive this. You have the power. They don't waive this, go to somebody else. It shifts all of the model in the way that we do science. So this is successful proof of concept. I've done this with all of my undergraduate and my master's thesis. You can look at all this, and I explain this in great detail in some of my YouTube videos. I've done this with all of my thesis students in the last 3 years. So one of the questions that I keep getting is that who is funding undergraduate students? Where do you get the money to do this? So actually, I was able to convince University of Hong Kong, and maybe you can do the same in University of Macau. I came to the university and said, if I can show you a guaranteed in-principle acceptance for an undergraduate student, will you be willing to give $1,000? He said, what? An undergraduate publication? Of course, no problem. So they gave me 30 students, $1,000 for data collection on Prolific, on Enter. So this is one of the models that you can just go to the university and say, we can get students to publish just fun after we get the guaranteed publication. So I'm just going to mention very briefly because we're almost out of time, but 2 students, Timothy actually did this twice with me. So our undergraduate has finished with 2 publications using peer community. If you want to see what that looks like, you can click on the links. This is typically what it's like, so this is first. The recommendation looks a little bit like this, is with open peer review. And in addition, on the open science framework, you can see all the stages, our submission, the feedback that we received, how we answer the authors, both for stage 1 and for stage 2, with all of the data, all of the code, all of the materials, everything is shared. In the stage 1, we also write a results section based on simulated data. You can also see simulated data set. So we pre-register everything. It looks like a manuscript. The results section is just on simulated data. So everything is open, everything is shared, recommendation, all the peer review. And finally, Collabora reached out to us and said, will you please publish with us? And we just moved it automatically with no additional peer review. This is Timothy. Timothy did this with me twice, and you can see over here we have Psychology Today column. He reflected on this, and he said, this is the best learning experience I could have hoped for. It's amazing. If you want to hear me talk about this in a wrong back, from an undergraduate student perspective, this is mind-blowing. There's a lot that you can learn in how to do science well. How many have we done? I've done 30 of these. So you can see 8 already published officially. And then we've got all these in-principle acceptance. So all of my thesis students have done this with me. So I'm not talking about hypothetical. I'm able to show successful proof of concept of doing this with all of my undergraduate thesis students, all of my master's thesis students. Everything can be done open, by the community, for the community, publishable in creditable journals. We also did a lot of resources, so you don't have to start anything from scratch. Just use our templates, our guides. Everything is very, very detailed, step by step, how to do things. So, for example, I have a template. It's a Google Doc. You can open this. How to write a manuscript. So even if you're an undergraduate and you don't know how to write this, you just follow the template. In addition, we have open science collaboration about students come to me, how do I do effect size calculation? How do I do confidence interval? So many of us, two of my students, Shinyu is here, we just talked about, many came together and we wrote a book. It's a very comprehensive book about how to use R code to calculate any kind of effect. Finally, if you want to see all the stage 2 accepted, you can follow this link. The feedback is very, very positive. And we also have templates for how to do this with a meta-analysis. So with one of my other MPhil students, we actually also do meta-analysis registry reports. So we have a template for that as well. And we also have a principal acceptance for field currently for a meta-analysis. So not only replication, not only quantitative research, but also meta-science and meta-analysis. This is for me, but if you want to hear this from Chris Chambers or the founders of peer community, a lot of videos, a lot of articles, increasingly more and more people are talking about this, but we are by far the biggest user of peer community, and we've shown that this can even work with students. So you can just use what it is that we've done. You can take all our resources, you can take our replications and do this in your Macau. You can do whatever you want, you can translate this, you can run this in your courses. Everything that is open, so you can just take everything that we've done and you can just test in. If you need any help with this, I'm very happy to help. We already have teams in Brazil and people in Europe that are just taking our applications, doing this with students, and also getting publications out of that. So it's an amazing model of working as a community with students. I know this was a little bit fast, and a lot to take in. So you might want more time and information. No problem. I'm happy to help. So everything that I talked about, all the publications and the resources and the open science and the meta science, everything is on this link, the QR code on my website. In addition, I'm very approachable. I have never not responded to anybody, even when I'm very, very busy. I might just connect with somebody else from our team. We have a big international team. I'm very active on Twitter X and Blue Sky. I also have a mailing list every 2-3 months. I send updates with the talks that we have, with the publications, with the things that we're doing. If you want to keep up to date, and of course, everything that I do is posted on YouTube. So please don't hesitate. Some of the students are a little bit scared about reaching out to professors. Don't be scared to reach out to me. I'm very happy to help you. Just let me know how I can help you do better science, better always. Thank you.